Hi, everybody.
Hey there.
Oh my goodness, if you can't tell, Keri's not feeling well, but
Oh
we're
boy.
we're still gonna have a great show.
That's right.
First up today, we're talking to Dr. Bibi Pirayesh, who's the founder of One of One Educational Therapy, where she believes every child is unique, intelligent, and motivated. And by celebrating differences, not deficits, she's helped hundreds of students over the last 10 years unblock their barriers to
Well,
their learning.
I just also want to say she's not the only person that thinks all kids are amazing and special. We do too.
Do we?
Yeah, I think everybody's special and amazing.
Yeah, that's true. I guess
But
you're
Dr.
right.
Mimi really does.
Yeah. Um,
A word ahead of time. I don't know what happened, but my vocals are really terrible on this episode. I apologize. Like we at Momtourage really try to that sound quality is like one of our most important things. And so sorry that it's not up to par. Can't win them all,
but
guys.
we can't win them all. That's okay. It's all right. You can tell which one of us handles the audio quality and which one of us is like, yeah, it's all right.
And I was the one that messed it up, so I apologize to everybody. I get it.
Then we're going to talk about this article from Jezebel called Let's Talk About All the 40-something Male Celebrities Dating Women in Their 20s Right Now. Listen, not groundbreaking, but really fun content. So I think we're going to have a really good show for you guys.
Listen, Ashley and I are not groundbreaking people.
No, we're not, but we are fun, and we
are
do like
fun.
talking. We like giving our opinions, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
As always, we have our hashtag swag bag. And up next, take it away, small child. Would you like to start?
I would.
You've had a lot.
I know. I would
We took a week off. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, well, I was gonna segue into that. So, first of all, I would like to dedicate this episode to Cecil Gray Bazelon, who was, I mean, I called her my great aunt, but really she was Lee's mom's cousin. So, my mother-in-law cousin? I don't know what the thing is, but
I guess just your cousin-in-law.
But I actually was extremely, extremely close to her. Like in some ways closer to her than I was to my mother-in-law. She lived in New York. I saw her a lot. And she passed away, which is why we took this week off because last week off. It hit me pretty hard. I just want to tell you a little bit about her if that's okay, because she's going to be my tits. When I was younger, I've told you guys this, like they used to ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I said, I want my obituary in the New York Times and I want to be eccentric, but I spelled it EGG, like eccentric. And in my mind, what I imagined was like fabulous leopard print, red lipstick, living an independent woman lifestyle in New York City as an artist, just freaking being fabulous and looking fabulous and kicking ass and taking names. And when I met Lee, is that a breakfast burrito, Ashley? Oh my God, that looks so delicious. All I've been doing is eating spicy soup. So I don't know what
I mean during your tribute, just eating a breakfast burrito.
I was like, Cecil Bazelon and I crunch.
Can you pass me my water too?
Anyway, when I met Lee, I very quickly met Cecil. And the minute I met her, I was like, oh my gosh, it was like I manifested her.
This is what I'm trying to be as I get older.
Yeah, I was like, this is exactly the woman I want to be. She was direct. She told you exactly how she felt, even if you didn't ask. But she also like started it with like one hell of a compliment. So you like didn't mind when she was like, you know, Keri, darling, your skin is so great. I love you. Does anyone like that outfit? I was like, I guess not. You know, she was fabulous. And she lived life exactly the way she wanted to. She got a master's degree in painting in the 40s as a woman on full scholarship. Like that never happens. She lived in the Bowery by herself in the 50s and 60s. Like, hello. Drank.
She was smoking a lot of weed with a lot of cool people.
Yeah, it was like Maisel. She was like Maisel, but not, you know, she was fabulous. And she got married late in life, never had any kids, married this man. She was his third wife. She was not happy about that, but they were like madly in love. Like for the 35 years that they were together before he died before her. Just like every single day, like madly in love. And she just was so special. And she was like the land of misfit toys. She had a great knack. One, she always hung out with younger people. All young people loved her. She had a very like young quality. yeah, she died. She was like 97, 98. I can't remember now, but she did gyrotonics every day of her life. She was so physically fit, always had her nails done, had double leopard print, two different leopard prints in her living room, custom designed her own wallpaper that her friend made, like just the most fabulous shit ever. And yeah, she adopted like the people that were misfits and she just collected them. And her whole life was full of loving and being generous to like people who were misfits. And her legacy is like full of all these people that were like, I didn't have a mom and Cecil became my mom. I didn't have a whatever. Cecil found me in college when I was studying to be a female lesbian rabbi. Like all these amazing things. And the female lesbian rabbi that did her service um, told a story, and this is like Cecil to a T, that when Cecil first moved to New York from Cleveland, she was like, it's Yom Kippur. I should probably go to service. So she goes to Temple Emmanuel, which is like a big,
That's the temple I go
fancy,
to in the city.
yeah, fancy temple in the city for Yom Kippur. And
Upper East Side.
yeah, she walks in and they go, do you have a ticket? And she goes, no. And they go, well, then you have to go to the basement and listen to it over a loudspeaker. And she was like, Cecil Gray does not listen to a service in the basement. And she left and never went back to temple again.
It's so
I was
funny.
like, girl, she's like, if religion makes you sit in the basement, I am not for it. But anyway, I really love her. Her art is all over our house. And I think part of me, we've had a lot of deaths in the last couple of years. Like,
yeah.
Lee's mother-in-law, my mother-in-law, Lee's mom, Cecil, two of my grandmothers, my friend who was my age who died of a brain tumor. It's like just been a lot. It's just been a lot. And, COVID, some of those people never had funerals. Some of those people I couldn't see in the end of their life because of COVID. And one, I think it all hit me really hard. But also Cecil represented to me what was possible. Like what was possible. And truly until COVID, she lived her life in such high dignity. And it just showed me like what was possible when you get older. Like all these other people, they just were different than me as they got older, like more passive. And she was just like exactly who she was the whole entire time. And unfortunately, COVID, the isolation of COVID really, she was such a social beast and such a physical out there person. COVID really like took a toll, and she didn't die of COVID, but the isolation like really affected her. And so really, I don't want to say I have any shits. I just, because life is full of shits at the moment, but the tits were Cecil. And I'm so glad. She one time told me she never had children. She wanted them and she was not able to have them. And her painting, she like painted every day of her life, truly. She only has one unfinished painting, and that's the one she was working on when she died. And it was a self-portrait of her.
Oh.
And she said her paintings were her children. And one of the last things I whispered in her ear, I said, don't worry, I have 9 of your children. I have the largest amount of your children, and I promise I will take care of them and continue your legacy. And
that's so nice.
It just makes me happy that I just see her beauty and what she represents to me all over my house. So here's to the strong women out there, and know that even as you get older, you can still live life exactly the way you want to.
Well, I don't think I'm going to follow up with anything. I think we'll just leave it with that.
All right.
All right. Next up, Dr. Bibi Pirayesh. Today's guest is the founder of One Educational Therapy, where she believes every child is unique, intelligent, and motivated, and that by celebrating differences, not deficits, she has helped hundreds of students over the last 10 years unblock the barriers to their learning so their brain can begin to do what it was designed to do, learn efficiently. Welcome, Dr. Bibi Pirayesh.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh,
thank you
for coming. So let's start off kind of basic, simple, easy. Can you give us a rundown of what exactly One does and how you've gone down this path?
Sure. So we're primarily an educational therapy organization. For those who might not know what educational therapy is, we essentially provide services to kids who have learning differences, learning disabilities, And a lot of our work is focused on the remediation of learning disabilities. I personally, because of kind of the turn in my own path, I'm also doing a lot of advocacy work around children's learning rights. But I came to this work very much from a science background. I was a neuroscience education major in undergrad. I was a developmental psych, sort of cognitive science person. I was always very much interested in learning and understanding how learning happens in the brain and how that research can inform classroom teaching. And I really came to, learning disability almost by accident. It's not something that I personally have experience with or, really even knew anyone growing up with a learning disability. But I fell into it because I wanted to understand kind of this connection between research and practice. And once I started working with kids with different kinds of learning needs, that's when I saw that connection really happen. And so, I was in private practice for years and years, loving and enjoying kind of the privilege of that one-on-one connection that you can build with kids and the changes and differences that you can see in real time. Then after a while, I started to realize that all of this was really only available to children whose parents had the resources to afford these kinds of services. And for all of our talk about, connecting research and practice and everything, this stuff really just never made it into actual public schools. So that really shifted my direction in a way. And I went back to school specifically to kind of study education and social justice and try to understand our systems better and why things are the way they are. And I wish that it was, some kind of happy ending. Like I learned how to scale this work, but actually it was quite the opposite. I learned how all of this is essentially, I really hate to say it, but essentially by design. And so that's one of the reasons why a huge part of what I do now at One of One Kids is really trying to push back on the types of narratives that we have around learning disability, the ableist narratives that we have around it, and to try to remediate systems more than children.
It's interesting you say all this because my family is actually really involved in this. And lots of people say, well, no one in your family that we know of has a learning disability. But for whatever reason, my sister works on the state end trying to advocate for children with disabilities to get funding and court cases and stuff like that. And then my brother works one-on-one with the autism spectrum kids. So
Oh, wow.
like both. My brother's like the one-on-one and my sister's trying to change legislation. It's fascinating. Anyway, so what kind of children do you help primarily? Is it run the gamut or what?
It does.
I even hate to say the word what kind of children but
right. What kind of, I guess,
needs.
I also hate to say diagnoses, but that's essentially the way that we do it. I work with a variety of, I kind of cover the age group. 7 is probably the youngest, because before that, I think, it's more things like speech language, occupational therapy, those are the types of services that really need to be in place. But for educational therapy, really, we start at 7 and then I go all the way through college. I work with kids in that transition to the college space, which is a really, really big transition because, as bad as K through 12 is, college is a lot worse when it comes to understanding these things. And I work, I think the students kind of tend to cluster. So there's a lot of elementary kids that kind of fall under that dyslexia category, reading disability. And then the middle school is really when we begin to see the executive function and the ADHD. And then that carries into high school. And then I also do a lot of high school math because, we talk about things like dyscalculia and like disabilities in math when kids are younger, but those kids are still required to go through, and do algebra 2. So, what does that actually look like? It pretty much runs the gamut.
I just had a lengthy conversation with my husband about this that Ashley's going to like roll her eyes, but I recently as an adult have been diagnosed with some sort of ADHD, something or other. And I'm like, I specifically picked a career that I didn't have to deal with any of my things that were an issue. What if I had been I mean, I'm 44, so these things were just not really thought about when I was in school. But what if they had addressed my number dyslexia? What if they had addressed some of my learning stuff? I just managed to find ways to get around it. But
Yeah.
like, what would I be today? I mean, you can't ever look back, but would I have actually been that doctor that I wanted to be if someone had given me, the correct resources to deal with some of these learning issues that I had,
You
Yeah,
mean you don't love just being a podcaster who makes barely money?
Sorry, Ashley.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Way to shatter my dreams, friend.
I went to acting school where I never had to write a paper.
I know.
It's like I just avoided the things that I couldn't do.
Well, I'm convinced you would have still been a podcaster no matter what.
I like to run my mouth. I like to run my mouth a lot. That's for sure.
But it really is interesting because, first of all, exactly like you said, Gen X and really generation. I mean, probably the millennials was where we really began to kind of talk about learning disability more directly. And things like a lot of learning disabilities do run in the family. So a lot of times when I'm working with a child, it actually becomes family work because oftentimes parents are like, oh, you know what, I have struggled with all that stuff. And this is what it was like for me. And especially women do not get diagnosed, when it comes to ADHD, autism, all these things. So it's always a family affair, and it tends to be uncomfortable, but then eventually, hopefully, healing for parents as well, as as they begin to see, oh, well, this is how it should have been done, and this is how it could have been. I think that to some extent, we all do naturally, accommodate our lives around what our strengths and weaknesses are. But it's a completely different experience of life when you can name something, when you can own something, when you can advocate for yourself around it, than when you're just kind of like floating in the dark.
I've done some work with that Winston Transitions School. Are you familiar with them?
I'm not.
They're
No.
they do it's one of those schools that's kind of like a transition from high school to college. It's like a 2-year program, and it teaches kids with different is disabilities the right term?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm not offending anybody with different disabilities, and prepares them to go off to college and really be able to handle what is expected normally of kids in college, in that being self-sufficient, being able to handle the curriculum. And I before working, I was just making a commercial for them, but before I had worked on this job, I had no idea that schools like this or places like this even existed. And just being there for 2 days, I was completely blown away that this program exists. How wonderful that there are situations like that. So I guess my question for those who are listening and may not know is, how does educational therapy differ from tutoring?
Sure. Well, let me just say one quick thing about what you just mentioned, because I do think that there is a lot available that people don't know about.
Yes.
Sometimes when we're talking about disabilities that are more visible, I think that people seek things out, but learning disabilities primarily invisible. So, and there's a range in severity. So there are, some kids whose learning disabilities just completely stop all of their functioning. And then there are a lot of people who somehow figure out how to function, even though they're dealing with a learning disability.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, even today, have learning disabilities that are undiagnosed. So they just kind of like think of it as like, this is just how I am, or this is like a quirk that I have, whatever it is. And so when you don't have the diagnosis, it's that much harder, obviously, to seek out places and services because you don't even know you need it.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, we don't have any kind of systems in place that screen everybody to make sure. But, you know, I think that this conversation around the difference between tutoring and educational therapy is connected to this question of diagnosis, because a lot of times when kids don't do well in school, our first thought is, oh, we need to get them a tutor. And what a tutor does is essentially what a teacher does, which is to teach content. So, you know, I know that you recently had the Secretary of Education on your podcast, which I thought was incredible. You know, but he was talking about all the money
that was a big long win for us. That was definitely.
Yes, I was so impressed. My gosh.
Thank you.
But
we were too, frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was actually very good. I enjoyed the episode immensely.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Thank you.
He was talking about you know, the money that the federal government has now put aside for essentially, you know, the COVID learning loss and everything, and the importance of that one-on-one. And so we're now trying to hire a lot of tutors to teach that missing content. And that's really important, obviously. However, kids with learning disabilities aren't just missing content. It's the actual learning part. It's the processing skills that are not in place. And so hiring a tutor essentially just becomes a crutch. So, you know, the example that I use for parents, it's like, imagine that you're in a bike race and you have a flat tire. And so when you hire a tutor, it's just someone to hold your broken bike as you're continuing on, as opposed to...
I'm a broken bike.
Yeah. It's just a deflated tire.
No, I know. That just hit me so sharp. I'm a broken bike.
Oh, no. But if you get an educational therapist, their job is to then, you know, help replace that tire and then teach you how to get on the new bike and join the race. So there's a really big difference, but unfortunately, because educational therapy is not as well known and understood, it oftentimes gets replaced by tutoring. And so, you know, then kids are just using a crutch throughout their academic careers.
What are some signs? This is something I talk about with my friends who have varying abled children, but what are some signs that we should look out for in our kids that might indicate that some additional support, care, education, tutoring, cognitive something, like what are some signs that we might need to up the ante?
Sure. Well, I think there's two major things to look for. And I always say the most important thing is always your gut feeling. I don't think there's anything that we can trust more than a parent's gut feeling about what's going on. And one of the really terrible things that happens is when parents know something is off and they go to the school, and because that's where we go when something's going on with our kids. And unfortunately, the school system is oftentimes not trained, or because of, you know, money and all of that, they don't want to go down that path. And so the school says, oh, it's, you know, it's developmental. Everyone learns to read in their own time. You know, they'll figure it out. And so that just ends up making the problem worse. So always listen to your gut feeling, push for things. You have rights in the school. So even if they say no, that doesn't mean that you accept that no. If you put a request in writing, they're required by law to test your child within 60 days. But I think the two biggest things, one is if generally speaking, homework is a nightmare. I think that's a really good sign that there's something going on, because especially in our country where, you know, I mean, we give homework, but not to the extent of a lot of other countries. It should not be that difficult. And if it is, that's always a good sign. And the other one is if you, apathy. I think, you know, when a child is just like, I don't really care about school, because that's just not how naturally, you know, we're learning machines. So outside of, you know, social issues that might be going on, generally speaking, apathy is a sign that something is off. And then, of course, you know, things like if you're noticing reading, language issues. Always, reading disabilities they're the one kind of disability that we really do know how to remediate. And it's an absolute shame. I know very recently in New York, your mayor kind of made it mandatory for every child to get a dyslexia screening, which I think is huge. So
one good thing Eric Adams has done.
I think that a simple screening can give you some flags for further testing when necessary. But homework problems and apathy.
I have a question. I think I know the answer to this. Sorry.
Okay.
So I think I know the answer to this, but if you think that a very, very close friend's child might need some extra care, is it your place to mention something to the parent? No.
I know,
I think the answer is no.
It's so difficult. Well, I mean, it's not a clear no, though, because, for someone in my position, I always view myself as the child's advocate. So, I'm the voice of the child, essentially. But obviously, it's very different when it's, friendships. I think there can be ways to bring it up that are more sensitive. I wouldn't lead with, maybe there's a learning disability going on. But there are ways to
what's wrong with your kid? Don't lead with that. That's that's not sensitive. Yeah. I think the key word was there's a delicate and a sensitive way to thoughtful.
Exactly. And to connect it maybe to a personal experience, kind of empathically. I think there could be some ways, but yeah, it's difficult.
So what tips do you have for parents in regards to how they can best support their children who may be having any kind of learning disability, or they're noticing things? What are your tips for parents on how to best help their kids?
Sure. Well, I mean, this is where the divide essentially begins. I think that if you are a parent who has the resources, I would recommend first, I mean, I hate to say it, but I really do recommend getting help, private help, outside help, both in terms of testing and diagnosis and in terms of resources. So whether you're contacting a neuropsychologist to do a full battery of testing, I only recommend that if it's really necessary. I think we have a problem right now where everyone's getting a neuropsych and it's unnecessary.
Yeah, I think that's a TikTok thing. Everyone thinks they have ADHD, but then you look at Keri, who it ended up being the case.
Right.
And also some schools, I have friends in my community, there are some schools that are really pushing to have a private thing for a lot of the kids. And my friend happens to be someone who is an educator. She's a theater educator that specifically works with kids on various autism spectrum. So she was I know my kid isn't autistic. This is literally what I do for a living. And then when she talked with the other mothers, the school was pushing a private evaluation for all of the kids, as a money grab.
Yeah. I mean, there's a huge private economy of which I obviously am also a part. But I think that there's a way to do that responsibly. And then there are people who essentially charge. I mean, there's also all these people that are paying people to get a diagnosis so they can get extra time on the SAT and blah, blah. I mean, it's a whole mess.
Yeah.
But
God, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yes, it's very much, a thing. But the reason that I really think if you can afford a private consult to maybe not do it exclusively, but certainly do it additionally, is because oftentimes when you go to the school, the response is, we're going to either put them through the SST process and take a year and a half to get to where we need to be, or they just say, no, everything is fine, and they'll just catch up. So I would say try to get that extra help from the right person, because there's also a lot of misdiagnosis. I can't tell you how many neuropsych reports I've read that are terrible, where the diagnosis is wrong. So private doesn't mean that they're going to do it right. You still have to do a lot of research. But I would say trust your gut feeling and try to follow that. If you don't have that resource, if you're not able to do that, then I would recommend going through the school system, but doing everything in writing. If you're able to hire an advocate, definitely, or sometimes people offer these types of services for free. Get someone on your side, because it is essentially, the second that you enter into it with the school system, it becomes a legal issue. And so, you don't necessarily need a lawyer, but you do need somebody else on your side, because most parents don't know the law. They don't know what their rights are. And having someone there who does will be a huge help.
Have you noticed that there are more children in need of additional educational care since the COVID pandemic, or are you not seeing a correlation there?
Well, again, going back to the conversation that you had with Dr. Cardona, when they first started talking about the learning loss thing, and that became kind of a buzzword, and then, the federal funds, the first thought in my mind was, I wish they would connect to educational therapists, because, in no way do I think COVID creates or causes a learning disability. However, there are a lot of kids who fall in that gray area. So these are kids who wouldn't necessarily qualify, for the diagnosis of a learning disability, but they
You
do
mean
have process.
financially?
No.
Just even ably.
Based
Is
on
that
based on special education
got it?
requirements, criteria, or even based on the DSM, because you have to keep in mind, I mean, these are just kind of arbitrary things that we've decided,
Yes.
kind of create a diagnosis, and a lot of people don't necessarily qualify or have so many strengths that they've been able to kind of compensate and kind of get through. But there's still processing skills issues.
Yeah.
And so what I've found is that those are the kids who've really suffered a lot. I mean, obviously the kids who had diagnosis also, because they weren't able to get their services during COVID. So it's not so much that, I think COVID created learning disabilities, but it certainly had an impact on further weakening already vulnerable kids around their neurodevelopmental constructs and around their processing skills. And now they have all this missed content that they have to catch up on, and they have to keep up with what's going on. And, the biggest kind of impact of COVID, in my opinion, was social, emotional, psychological,
Totally.
mental health issues.
Yes.
So that has made it even, and then, when you have kids, for example, kids with ADHD who have huge emotional regulation difficulties, having to deal with all of that, it's been really hard. So, if I could have it my way after the pandemic, everyone would go through kind of an intensive 3-month brain training where we really beef up all of our processing skills, and then we attend to the content that we've missed. But I'm not the Secretary of Education, so we can't do it that way.
I mean, something that I'm just learning on this journey for myself, which Ashley's heard so much of, is that, the kids that are kind of the least able to function are the ones that are diagnosed the quickest, right? Because there's a very obvious need. There's a very obvious difference. But then a lot of the nuances.
Be surprised. You'd be
surprised,
really? But yes, generally, yes, but you'd be surprised.
Then there's all these nuances of kinds of learning issues that maybe are not picked up. And part of them are not picked up because the class sizes are too big, or they don't have the parents that are able to be there one-on-one to watch them do the things, or whatever, all the things. Or maybe like me, they were just really good at adapting, and
right.
and no one had any idea that,
or they're working 3 times as hard as everybody else, or their parents.
Well, that was one of the things that was like, how long? And I was like, wow, I was the kid that did the most amount of work and got the worst grades.
Yep.
Yes.
It happens all the time, and a lot of parents, they don't always realize that, the amount of, parents after school might be putting 3-4 hours a night of doing work with a child that should really only be taking them an hour.
Right.
And they just sort of assume this is how they have to do it, or this is, whatever, that's how their child does it. So, but, like you were saying, I do think that, we have the kids who, to get qualified for a learning disability through the public school system, unfortunately, the way that it works, first of all, your grades have to be really low. So again, parents who want to make sure their kids are getting good grades and are giving them that support oftentimes are doing them a disservice, right? But it's sort of the
Which
difference.
Is crazy.
It's crazy. Exactly.
Yeah.
I have to sometimes say to parents, no, we're going to have to let her fail, for example, so that we can have a different conversation.
Well, that's the way it is with America in general. Like, you have to be sick in order to, there's no preventative. It's like you have to be sick in order to qualify for the care kind of thing.
Right, exactly. So it's either, you're kind of in that circle, or you're, you had the resources and you were able to get diagnosed privately, and you probably attend a private school, which is a different set of issues. I won't get into it. But there are a lot of kids who, even after the parents, do testing, they don't necessarily come out with a diagnosis. Certainly if it was public testing, the diagnosis criteria are very different than the DSM. So it's much harder to qualify. But just because you didn't get a diagnosis doesn't mean that you don't have processing issues. And so there is a huge number of kids, I think, who are navigating the school system who would really benefit from some remediation work. And, work that really should be part of our teaching. Classroom teachers should be trained in all of this. They should be trained in how to teach executive function. They should be trained in how to give work that actually builds these skills. But unfortunately, the way that teacher training is, we teach curriculum. And so teachers end up teaching curriculum, not children. And that becomes a really big issue.
Dr. Bibi, I'm about to sneeze. Sorry. It's gonna come.
Look at the light.
Sorry.
Oh, bless you.
Sorry. Dr. Bibi, thank you so much for joining us. This was very enlightening for me personally. So many things I would have never thought of. So I appreciate it. Can you please plug yourself? Can you plug your services? Tell people how they can reach out if they need to work with you.
Sure. The best way to reach me is all of my information on my website is on my website, www.oneofOnekids.org. I'm also very active on LinkedIn, so that's a good way if you just kind of look for my name on there. OneofOnekids.org and or LinkedIn. I do normally kind of plug this, the Difference is Not Deficit project, which is an initiative that we started to get people who've had experiences of having their learning disability kind of pushed back on through the system to share their stories. But if I may, and I don't know if this is okay, and if it's not okay, you can, cut it out of the show.
Okay.
But I am an Iranian American. And with everything that is going in Iran right now, the only thing that I want to plug right now is if people are on social media and they are seeing the Masa Amini hashtag, and if they're kind of in the know about what's going on, you don't really need to be educated on it because it's a very complex issue. But two teenage girls this week, just in the last 2 days, have died really, really horrific deaths at the hands of this regime and in this revolution. So I just want to say to any listener out there, if you know of Persian people, if you connect with them on social media, please, please, please amplify their voices. This is a crucially important time. So that's the only plug I want.
No, totally.
No, thank
David
you.
and Eve, thank you.
That's staying in. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
But so will the other plugs, just so you know. We're also going to plug but yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. And,
The work you do
we're
is so important. Thank you.
so important. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. The work you do is so important because you guys are getting us out there and all the important people out there so that we can talk about this stuff. So thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you. You just made
Goodness,
me feel better about my
I
job.
know.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's talk about this article from Jezebel, which let me start by saying I thought
Jezebel,
Jezebel,
the paper of record.
yeah, the paper of record. I didn't even think Jezebel existed anymore.
I didn't think so either. It must.
I thought it went away when Gawker went away.
I mean, I did always enjoy Jezebel.
I loved Jezebel. I read it religiously. I just had no idea it still existed. So,
I didn't know either. So yay to that.
Yes, and I loved it for this kind of
Content.
narrative, which I just think is so fun. It was always where you went for like what
Cheeky.
happened, what happened on Gossip Girl last night, and like what's fun celebrity gossip.
Should I start watching Gossip Girl? I've never watched Gossip Girl, and I need something to binge while I'm sick.
Oh, I think it's so. Don't watch the new one; it's terrible.
No, I would go for the old one.
Yeah, the old one. I mean, if you like silly, light, joyful gossip,
I mean, usually no.
then you're not gonna like it. I mean, it's not a show you watch because you're like, oh, it's just so well done. Like that's not what it's about.
Yesterday, I binged alien content for like 7 hours.
Yeah, you watch it because you want.
Okay, maybe I need to be in a different mindset.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really. You and I don't tend to like the same kind of stuff. And
I was like, "There's alien shipping routes. What are they shipping?" And they're like human organs. I'm like, ah.
Yeah, that's a bit much. So that I don't know. Maybe don't watch Gossip Girl. Anyway, so this came out January 14th. This article
of 2023. So it's still they're still actually alive. This
right of 2023. Yeah. We're recording today. It's January 24th. So 10 days later. So
okay, great.
I believe these couples are still together, but
no, I mean like Gawker. I mean Jezebel's still alive.
I mean it was then. It was 10 days ago. Well, I don't know. I can't speak for today, but it's. I'm looking at the website right now. And it basically is talking about this. All of a sudden, I mean, listen. Older men dating younger women is not anything new. But
as old as time.
Yeah, exactly. There is this there were a bunch of trending couples. So first we have Chris Evans, who's 41. Finally, if you pay attention to Dumois in any way, he has been rumored to be with Alba Baptista.
Yeah.
No, Alba Baptista specifically for at least a year, I would say. But they finally went public. She's 25. Anyone who's a Bachelor fan will know Nick Viall, who is 42, has been part of Bachelor for so long, just got engaged to his 24-year-old girlfriend, Natalie Joy.
I mean, at least all of these are legal.
And it does address that. Like, we're not talking about legality here or consent. This is all consensual. This is all legal. It is just a commentary
thank God, right?
About age. That's it.
We're not Dax Sheparding this.
No. Why?
No,
What is
Dax Shepard? No.
What did Dax Shepard do?
No, not Dax Shepard. The comedian that's like a piece of shit, and he's the gaming.
Chris D'Amelio or whatever.
Yeah.
Not like the D'Amelio sisters, but the guy with the long black hair.
Yeah.
Then of course we have Leonardo DiCaprio with a 23-year-old, which honestly that's a bit old for him.
I also think that's all bearding.
Oh, 100%. We'll get into that.
Okay.
And soon to be 60-year-old Brad Pitt, which by the way, that made me feel really old. That Brad Pitt is 60.
Buzz Aldrin, who's like 97, just got remarried to somebody in her 20s.
That's absolutely disgusting.
I only know
because
he's a Montclair resident.
I would not even want to know about those old 90-something-year-old balls in any world.
He has seen things. He's been to Mars, maybe. Moon.
Yeah, but he's got a really old dick. So whether he's been to Mars, no one's been to Mars.
I meant the moon. I want Dayquil, guys.
I don't care where you've been. I don't want your 90-something-year-old penis. That's disgusting. Anyway, so Brad Pitt is 59, and he is getting more serious with his 30-year-old, who I believe is lying. She looks older than 30. I don't mean that to be disparaging, but We all know in Hollywood people lie. Okay, so this became popular. Sorry, I'm using the article as a reference. This became popular because when Austin Butler won, what award did he win? Not Critics' Choice. Golden
I,
Globes?
I was like, Oscar? Golden Globes, yeah.
Golden Globes. Okay, so the Golden Globes happened. Austin Butler for the Elvis film has been doing all this press where he keeps talking about this friend that told him he should play Elvis, this friend that encouraged him. And it's Vanessa Hudgens, his girlfriend he was with for 10 years, who is his age, because she has also told the same story, and like everyone knows they've been together for 10 years. But now he's dating Kaya Gerber, who's Cindy Crawford's daughter, who is 21. He's 31. I don't think that's that big of a difference, but 21 to 31 is pretty. That's a big different phases of your life.
I mean, I can't really talk because I've always dated way older men, like 10 to 15 years older and at 21. So I am this person. But go on, continue, please.
Yeah, I'm not. And I don't mean that as a judgment thing. It's like I just think me at 21 with a 30, I did date a 26-year-old at 21, and I remember thinking, "Oh my god, he's so mature and so much older," and like he wasn't.
I mean,
He was not.
we've already said that I have like lots of daddy issues.
Right. So, and then on top of it, we have people like Florence Pugh, who dated Zach Braff. She's 27, he's 47. 20 years. Also, Zach Braff, what is attractive about that guy?
Ugh.
I don't understand at all.
You know what he looks like to me?
What?
Someone you're like, he'll be cute when he gets his braces off. And then he gets his braces off and there's no change.
That is a really good comparison, actually. Then we have Billie Eilish, who is dating that singer.
Yeah.
What's that guy's name? Hold
I
on.
don't know. I'm not into him at all. What did I just got so Jersey at all?
You got so Jersey.
At all.
Do it all of a sudden randomly. Anyway, so once again, I want to stress this is not about me tooing anybody. This is not about saying anything like these men are pedophiles or anything. These are of age women. For me, the thing is, what in the hell are you guys talking about in your relationship? And like, what are you guys doing? What do you have in common other than having sex? What do you have in common? Because Chris Evans says that him and his girlfriend do is prank each other, which, I mean, that's appropriate for a 40-something-year-old man and a 20-something-year-old girl. Like, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Also, the fact that he feels comfortable saying that out loud
is
and like
horrifying.
doesn't realize that that's like maybe not something you want to share out loud.
Right. Then we also have a nearly 60-year-old Brad Pitt who looks great. He really does. Looks great. But he reportedly physically abused Angelina Jolie and their kids on an airplane. It's been investigated and I think currently being investigated by the FBI. And yet he's still adored by all of Hollywood. He's still seen as so sexy and wow, he looks great for 60. I said it myself and I just believe it. I believe it. I agree. He does look great. He might be the only 60-year-old man I'd consider dating. And yet we have Olivia Wilde, who's 38, dates Harry Styles, who's 10 years younger than her. And you and I have said it ourselves. Like, you're making a fool of yourself dancing around like that at his concert. Like, have some self-respect. And I still stand by that statement, honestly. But what is wrong with us? What is wrong with society that we, that whole, the Golden Globes.
Yes.
They sat Brad Pitt right in the front. And he was like the biggest hit of the night other than Jennifer Coolidge. He was the one everyone would be like, oh my God, Brad Pitt's right there. Like, countless women said that when they were up on that stage. And they say that's a huge PR thing. Like, he has his PR team working on overdrive to completely forget that this abuse thing ever happened. And I agree with it. And it's working. And why are we so forgiving of men? Why?
Yeah. Well, it goes back to like what you said a couple episodes ago. Might have been even one. Like, why is Coach Shaw not getting the heat? And it's because he's a man. That's why.
And I can't even get into all of that because there's a podcast called The Bravo Docket, and they go into like, it's 2 lawyers, and they go into, like, full legal stuff about,
Ugh.
reality. Like, they cover
What's the
Chrisley as
girl that's
well,
getting it worse?
Erica Jane.
Erica Jane, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
I know.
Um, they cover the Chrisley one, which that's not Bravo, but still. What Jen Shah was literally one of the masterminds of this whole, like,
Yeah.
literally one of the masterminds of this whole thing. And supposedly they have a little bit of proof. This was not from Bravo Docket. I saw this somewhere else. There's a little bit of proof that Coach Shaw was like trying to, as a former lawyer, trying to guide Jen and her assistant Stuart, who then turned on her. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
So I'm just saying, like, yes. Why?
It goes all the way to the
Why do we
top,
do
guys.
this?
It goes
Yeah.
all the way to the top.
There's literally a picture of Vanessa Hudgens meeting Kaya Gerber when she's like 7.
I saw
And
that.
shaking her hand. If that's not the most disturbing shit in the world,
saw
I don't
that.
know what is.
Yeah.
Or maybe that Kaya Gerber's brother now has face tattoos. Maybe that's the most disturbing.
I mean, let's name the thing that's disturbing.
I mean, and then let's talk about Leonardo DiCaprio.
Okay, let's do it. Let's talk about it.
I mean, my personal theory is he was a child star who was
we know his manager
was one of those real perv managers who really took advantage of little boys.
And was part of the what's his name from
Bryan Singer?
Yeah, but Spider-Man, the Spider-Man actor, what's his name? Tobey
Oh, Tobey
Maguire.
Maguire.
Yeah, it's part of that whole really unfortunate situation there. I mean, it's all unfortunate. Like, who am I kidding? It's all unfortunate.
Yes. But, you know, did you ever listen to that Beyond the Blinds episode about Leonardo DiCaprio and how all these different women have come forward and said that he has to have sex with
earphones
headphones on, blasting like MGMT, a cigarette in his mouth, and sunglasses on. Like, he has to.
At least he knows what gets him off. Yeah, at least he knows.
I think the problem is he's probably been really, really abused, and nothing really gets him off, and he has to like go to some other place.
It's very sad.
It's horrendously
very sad.
This is all alleged, guys. This is not factual. But then we glorify him for his like Jack Nicholson lifestyle.
I mean, are we still glorifying him for that or no?
I don't know. I think like men constantly think that's not all men, but I think there's a number of men out there that think that's pretty cool.
Got it. Because I was just like, I mean, it's sort of been a joke. It's like a joke. I mean, it's not a funny joke. It's not a ha-ha joke. But his dating has been like the butt of jokes.
Yeah.
For so long. And I think most people are like, sort of like, that's sad, but also like, get over yourself.
It is,
and
it is, right. Like, it's not going to change anything.
Right.
You and I were recently did an interview on the 101 podcast, which I don't think has aired yet.
I don't think so. I can't wait for it to air. They were so great to talk to.
So great, so wonderful. And one of the things we talked about was that this article came out, I believe, in either Variety or Hollywood Reporter, saying that although the Me Too movement kicked off all of this stuff in our industry, in Hollywood, in entertainment,
nothing changed.
Not a lot has changed. It was what I think it. If I remember correctly, the article said there was one studio that was hiring female directors, and the female directors were the only ones that were really taking the time to be more inclusive of women, be more inclusive of BIPOC people in the industry, and hiring those people.
Yep.
So,
a lot of it was just for like show.
Of course.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to me to hear people who are so anti-woke culture. It's a very conservative mentality to be very anti-woke culture.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is not a lot's changing despite...
I'm so congested. I heard anti-wolf culture and I just went with it. I was like, yeah, Wolves of Wall Street. Yeah, that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Anti-wolf culture. People stopped being furries and putting in fangs and stuff like that.
Just so congested. I was like, great, wolf culture. Go ahead, Ash. Tell me more.
I just think... we're making this big stink about these things. And I do see it in certain ways. Like, I'll be honest. I see it with Matt. There are jobs that Matt is more qualified for than other people, and he gets passed over because he's not a woman or he's a white man. There's jobs you and I get passed over.
I was going to say there's tons of, yes, of course. Because
I'm not even white. I'm a Hispanic Jewish woman, and
I
I
know.
but because I'm white passing, I get passed over
Oh
for
my
them.
God. Speaking of being Jewish, sorry, this is going off the rails.
Uh-huh.
I love watching old Between Two Ferns.
Oh, me too. And I love the bloopers on TikTok.
There was one where he was interviewing Keanu Reeves, and he's like, you played Neo, and he's the chosen one.
Was he
So
Jewish?
he's Jewish.
Yeah.
And he's like, excuse me. And he's like, chosen one. So he's Jewish, right?
So funny. Um,
I mean, listen,
so I don't know. It's confusing. It's confusing. Like, is this change actually happening? Because I feel it, or is it not happening because we're not fully seeing it?
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. And I'm going
Please.
to tell you all the reasons why I have always, for the most part, dated older men. I mean,
Okay.
when I was 21, I dated a 40-year-old.
Ugh.
And that relationship lasted, and it was an extremely good relationship.
Huh.
The only reason really why we broke up was because he really wanted like a family right away and a little woman that would
Is
like stay at home. And I was like just starting my career. And I was like, I don't want that right now, but I do want that.
is
But I
it
don't
also
want to stop
possible?
working.
I think it might be hard for you to answer this because it's hard to see ourselves through this lens. But, one of the things I see on TikTok a lot are these older men talking about why they prefer younger women. And without using this exact word, essentially, it's because they can manipulate and shape these women
I
into
mean,
exactly what they want them to be.
I mean, listen, the end reason why I broke up with him was because he wanted me to like give up working and live a certain way, and I didn't. Now, he had not dated someone younger until me. He ended up
Okay.
right after me marrying someone even younger than I was. So even younger. She
Weren't you
did,
21? How was she younger?
yeah, but our relationship lasted until I was like 26.
Oh, okay. Got it.
We dated for a very long time. It was very serious. We're still friends and everything, but he
Who
ended up
was this? This was the playwright?
No, this was before him. Well, I had dated the playwright, like, during
In
college.
all the relationships I've heard about, I've never heard about this guy.
Really? That's
And this was while
interesting.
you were doing your plays and on the
Yeah,
soap
I was
opera
on the
and
soap
stuff?
opera, yeah, mhm. So,
Huh.
the playwright that I had dated, or the screenwriter, we, like, dated in college for, like, a year and then broke up and were just best friends.
Okay.
Then way after the fact, we dated for, like, a lot of years. So this was in
Okay.
that space between
Okay.
college and whatever.
O
He was college friends with a guy that owned the theater company that I worked for. So he would always be around like at theater company parties. He was like a donor, like that kind of thing. So
Okay.
that's when I met him and we started dating. Um and it was a really good relationship. My parents loved him, like everybody, like it was a really good relationship. But he really wanted me to not work and like stay at home and have kids and everything. And I had just like my career was just taking off. I was like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
And then he would say things like, "You're very childish." And I was like, "Right, because I'm 22. Like, hello." And also, I'm exactly the same way in many ways that I'm like, I'm gonna tell poop and fart jokes to the end of time. Has nothing to do with me being 21. Like,
Right.
you
I'm
met my
gonna be like this.
grandmother?
Right. Hi, I'm 44. Are you 44 now?
Yeah, I'm almost 45. Yeah.
I'm 44 right now, and I'm still telling fart jokes.
He one time
Podcast talks about poop all the time.
He one time got out of a moving car because I was singing "When You're Sliding into Third and You Feel It Just to Turn Diarrhea," and he like got out of the car. He's like, "I can't." I was like,
See, but I do feel like this. Obviously, what do I know? I was not part of this relationship, but just hearing it, it does kind of like support what I was saying. For me,
but I
I
was like,
do.
that's what you like about me. So like, shut up. But anyway, then
I
after
don't.
that, I continued to date guys. I mean, Lee's 10 years older than me. I dated, and I mean, I've kind of always dated.
Yes, but I don't see you and Lee now, like you're at a different age now. You know what I mean? You're not a 20-something-year-old girl dating a 50-year-old guy.
Right.
You're just 10 years, you're in your 40s. You're a well-established
Right. Me and that dude
woman.
being 20 years different.
That
Like,
that's a very
I
big
threw his
difference.
40th birthday party at 22.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. And
Yeah.
I don't mean to be critical of you.
No,
So
it's
please don't take
okay.
it this way because it's not of you, it's of this guy. It very much sounds to me like this was a guy who wanted, I think there's something to be said about older men when they are with younger women wanting somebody who isn't emotionally, hasn't been through it emotionally or physically or in any way, right? So they can set a precedence. Because there's shit I tolerated at 21 years old that I would not tolerate now as a 37-year-old woman.
No, but I
And
think
I'm sure we all feel that way. I'm
think
sure there are men that feel that way.
I think the thing that I wanted to say as a woman
Mm.
in this situation was that I liked that he had his shit together. I never liked going to a dude's house and him having like a bed on the floor
I mean, I can
and like
understand that.
one top sheet that he tucked in and like
Yes.
crumbs everywhere. Like, this is a man that owned his brownstone, had like nice soap. I remember walking in, I'm like, this is nice soap. Like,
Right.
he cooked food for me. He woke me every morning with a cup of fresh coffee while I was sleeping. Like, this was a man. This was a man, and he had his shit together. And being a starving artist in my 20s moving to New York, it really represented. I mean, sometimes I look back and I'm like, man, he treated me amazing. I was like his goddess. He treated me like a goddess. So there's something like really attractive about that made me not even think about the age, because I had never been treated like that before. I had never been treated so well.
Yeah.
And maybe never have. No, just kidding.
My 26-year-old boyfriend when I was 20, I remember one time he said, "How come you never pay when we go out?" And I said, "'Cause I'm in college and you have a full-time job. Like, you work all day long. I literally am going to
That
college."
would make me want to dump him immediately.
Yes, have an internship and
live with my parents.
No, I was in college. I work at Lucky Brand, making $8 an hour 3 days a week. Like, how much? I have bills to pay. I'm not trying to. And I remember him trying to accuse me of saying,
Plus, you like this blowout when you go out with me? Okay, that's what I'm paying for.
No, I didn't even do any of that stuff. Literally, I was just working all the time. I was either at school, at my internship, or at my Lucky Brand job. There was no blowout. There was nothing. I was just a girl trying to get through life and like move on to the next phase of my life, which was post-college. And he was just like convinced I was using him for his money. And I remember then saying, "What money? What money? You're not rich.
You just have a job. You just have like a job, and I'm a college kid."
Yeah. Like, you occasionally bring cookies over to my apartment and take me out for a drink. What fucking money? You don't buy me jewelry, you stupid asshole. So I don't know. I just think I have a real issue with older men.
And I'm just gonna say to anyone, you're not buying me jewelry, you stupid asshole.
Yeah, you're not buying me jewelry. Like, what the fuck? What money? Also, let's look at this reverse. Let's look at like the Hulu show. Let's look at the show with Tay Diggs, Back to the Groove.
Oh, right.
Whatever, right? I don't think it's necessarily the same with women where women
I also dated a very much younger man once.
Yeah, see, I'm just not interested in that.
He came at me hard.
Do I have to talk about with a man?
Well, that's what
so
I
much
said.
Younger than me.
He came at me hard. I was like, "Listen, you're too young. Like, I'm just not into it." And he came at me hard, and I was like, "Fine. You warm me down. I'll go out for a drink." And I was trying to like take the opposite look and being like, if I could date someone 20,
right?
You know what? Like, he was fun. He was fun for sure. Like, the sex was amazing. He was fun. He was a b-boy hip hop dancer.
Oh my god! I also don't even think I want amazing sex. Can I be honest about? Like, I don't want to be doing acrobatics.
It was a little acrobatic.
I don't want that. I don't.
I was like,
that.
Can we just have vanilla? He was the one that wanted me.
Sex.
He was the one that wanted me to think about having an open relationship, and I was like,
of course he did.
Schedule.
Of course he did. Look, there's definitely a part of me that would be worried that I'm being judged.
He's also the one that shat on my floor when he had a schizophrenic break.
Okay, that makes sense. There's definitely a
That's
part
not funny
of me
at all, but it is, but it isn't.
There's definitely a part of me that would feel very judged by people for dating a younger guy. But aside from that, that is not what would stop me. I mean, I understand giving it a try and stuff. I just like want someone I can talk to. And maybe if I was like Matt and I got divorced and I just was looking for somebody to have some hot sex with, maybe that's a different story.
We did do a lot of yoga together.
Oh God, this guy just gets worse and worse. Like it's just such a midlife crisis.
But I didn't want to date him. He like wore me down.
Okay, but you did. And not just once, multiple times. That's okay. You do you. I'm just saying.
Casually dated
You did
until he
one.
shat on my floor.
It's like flavor of love. I can't take you nowhere. You pooped on my floor. Yeah, anyway, what do you guys think? What do you think about men dating younger women, women dating younger men? Really, I'm more interested in the men dating younger women, but I'd be interested to
Just
hear
feel
how
like
you feel
men
too.
dating younger women is like so predictable. It's
It's
like
so
so
predictable.
like yes, it's what you
You go through
do.
menopause. You're gonna expect some like
What
20-something-year-old
about Samantha
guy.
and what was the guy's name when she had cancer and he was so good to her?
Yeah, that's fictional characters, Keri. Tell me, I'm talking about real shit. You're telling me that Demi Moore was perimenopausal with Ashton Kutcher and had him around her young daughters and
Well, he
like
cheated
was
on her all the time, and she also is not. She
right,
was
and
so
was
horribly
she was
abused.
dealing with a dry vagina. She was dealing with she was dealing with all this shit
That's the
that
least. That's the
comes.
least of her issues. If you read her autobiography, oh my god, it's terrible.
I just
Her mom used to sell her when she
That's
was like
fine.
10 years old for
Fine.
sex.
Take any other woman then. Make it not Demi Moore. Make it
Okay.
any other woman going through menopause. And you're going to deal with that with a 20-something-year-old man? He has no concept.
I feel like you can
My
trick,
husband, who
trick
loves me
men
and
so
adores
easily.
me, barely has patience for me when I'm in a mood sometimes. And some 20-year-old guy is going to when I'm going through years of it? Not a chance.
Lee and I are both like, thank God we're both old because shit is just breaking and we can laugh at it.
100%. I want somebody to grow old with so I can be like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not the
I'd
same
be like,
person.
Lee,
I don't
you have
want those
saggy balls
expectations.
and my vagina just doesn't work.
Yeah. Think I want to like have to put estrogen shit on my vagina to go have sex with a 25-year-old because he's hot? I'm good. That's a hard pass for me. I'm not even at that point in my life, but I don't want to be there with a young guy. I don't
Tell us
know.
about your vagina. Is it
Yeah.
with some old balls or is it with some young and tight, high and tight balls? Let us know. Write us at
No.
hello@momtouragepodcast.com.
Let us know. Let us know your thoughts. We want to hear them. Share with us. All right. Shall we hashtag swag bag?
Swag it up.
Do you want to go first or you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Vinyl stickers, they're bringing me joy.
Me too. I just bought a bunch.
I know, I saw it because your Etsy is on the Momtourage email.
I know.
I just got one. I can't wait for it to come because we've talked about before. On my computer right now, I have that Showbiz Baby and a thing that's just a stick of butter and it just says butter. And I bought an inhaler that says it's not easy being wheezy. And then here on my one, I've got cherry bomb and that shit is bananas. They're bringing
You
me
and I have
joy.
very different sticker tastes. I do have one that's an apple that says Sonia Morgan's. Wait, what does it say? Hold on. Sonia Morgan's home for wayward it girls. And I felt like that was very appropriate. All right, so
listen,
vinyl stickers.
I stand by butter. It's like it's a great way to spend $2 and just give yourself a little smile.
I agree. Although I did pay like $5 for a Ramona one.
I don't want to brag, but I have an extra.
Oh, nice.
That Showbiz Baby. I need a big Momtourage one again.
I have it in a bag of stuff for you. I just
Great.
haven't seen you since you last told me.
I mean, you didn't see me because I'm like the wreck of the Hespas.
Yeah, I'm not going to see you until you're not sick.
Good.
Because, I'm trying not to get sick so hard. And I'm doing well so far. We're 3 weeks into January and I haven't gotten sick yet. That's a pretty long stretch for me. Anyway, so my hashtag swag bag, I think, is going to be the brand Favorite Daughter, which I kind of hate.
I've never heard of them.
It's who's the music guy? David Foster's daughter's clothing company. Aaron Foster and something else. They kind of annoy the shit out of me. They give me very strong Jenny Mullen vibes.
Ugh, remember when
your best friend Jenny Mullen? Yeah, she gives me. They give me very strong, like those kinds of girls, those LA chicks that just think they're so funny and like everyone needs to be privy to their funniness when it's like just not that funny. But they have a clothing company called Favorite Daughter, which I do think is a very good name. But I've been looking for the perfect black high-waisted wide leg pant.
Oh, I got them too.
And so I was obsessed with getting theirs, and it was sold out everywhere. I didn't end up getting them. But I found a pair of jeans on their website, and it's like these pants are like rated the top pant. Like they're $218. Everybody wants these fucking pants, right? They're sold out everywhere. But then I found these jeans and I bought them and I'm in love with them. And now I'm just convinced that they probably make all kinds of great clothes and there's so much cute stuff on their website, and I'm just going to buy so much of it.
I've like never heard of them.
Yeah. It's a new thing. I've bought a few really good pieces in January that have been either on sale or like because I've done such cleaning out of my closet, things to like replenish or fit me right or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And those jeans are one of them. The Misha,
Barton.
I guess, super high rise wide leg jeans, and they're like a sailor jean, and they
I
are.
love a sailor jean. Like
Me
I miss a
too.
trouser jean with the slanted pockets. Oh, I love that.
These don't have a slanted pocket. They have like a regular jean pocket, but they are like a trouser fit jean.
Trouser jeans look so good on me. Not
love
bad.
them. Not to mention these are a whole size too big, so I had to go down, which is even nicer. Vanity sizing.
I just also want to say that I bought a pair of Gucci boots.
Oh, that's right.
That I bought them at a designer resale place. They look
What
brand
place,
new.
by the way?
It's in Short Hills. It's called Double Take Vintage. It's mostly like a lot of like very labely, like printed labely kind of stuff.
Got it.
So not like a ton of stuff that I would buy, but I found these leather in the front, suede in the back, old style Gucci, like triangle-ish logo on the side, probably 4.5, 5-inch heels. I mean, these are the boots.
I think they're 5 inches.
They are.
And there's no platform, so it's like a very steep.
Pitched. Yeah. My calves are like, oh, you need an Advil. They are so hot. I want to walk across the grave of someone I dislike in these boots. I want to meet an ex-boyfriend's new wife. I want to go to a reunion of people that made fun of me in these boots. Like, I just love these boots so hard. They represent the woman that I know that I am in my heart and soul, in my mind. They're probably like $3,000 boots. I got them for $350. I mean, can't beat that.
Nope.
I just am like, whenever I'm feeling down, I just want to put them on and look at myself and be like, this is you. You can do it. You can do it. Just look at yourself. I mean, here's for getting older and just buying shit that is nice.
I mean, I gotta tell you, I'm really enjoying like the whole clean out process that started, over the summer or whenever you did your garage sale, and like replenishing things. I've been like trying to find the perfect black pants. I ended up lucking out and getting them in the Zara end of season sale, which is why I no longer need those favorite daughter ones, but I might get them in another color. There is real joy about like getting some really nice pieces that you spend money on and make you feel your best.
Yeah. I mean,
as opposed to just buying a bunch of shit and a bunch of trash,
which is usually what we do at Zara.
Right. 100%. And I bought a lot of stuff, but I returned half of it,
Yeah,
I walked away with a free pair of leather pants. I don't know how that happened. A pair of black trousers, a great blazer, and that's it.
Zara's sizing is so wonky that I just hate shopping
Not as
there.
H&M though.
No, but the sizing is like sometimes I'm a 9, 27, sometimes I'm a 2. Like, it's like ridiculous.
I am never a 2 in Zara anymore, but yes. It's always a medium or a large for me.
I'm like, what drugs
But I
are
do
you
find
guys
that
on?
their sizing thing on the website where they tell you like what size you should get depending on how you want it to fit you and stuff is very accurate.
Remember the time that Zara, the sweatshop, sewed a rat into a coat?
No. Oh, I vaguely do.
We talked about it on one of our shows. We've had so many.
I mean, Shein, they just consistently, people are like, some lady opened up a package the other day and all these help me tickets or something, I don't know, all these notes came out. I like refuse to shop at Shein. I refuse.
No longer.
Zara's about as bad as it'll get, H&M and Zara, but very rarely at this point.
Anyway, guys, help me. Help me.
Yeah.
What a show.
Oh, those poor people.
I know.
All right. Everyone, have a great week.
Stay
safe.
Love you. Stay safe, guys.
And stay healthy.
That's right.
Keri.
And grow old the way you want to.
Yes.
Like a
agreed.
badass bitch. Bye.
Bye.